Hello, everyone, and happy Equinox. I'm Meagan Mermaid, and I am here to share with you this special Equinox message. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about the importance of the equinox, how it's tied in to the very powerful solar eclipse that we just had in Virgo. And we're going to receive some messages of how we can sort of integrate this time and step into the power of this time and allow it to balance our lives and find freedom where we've had restriction. So, if you're in the northern hemisphere, this is fall equinox. If you're in the southern hemisphere, it is spring, but it's the time when the days are starting to become balanced. The equinox is when there's an equal amount of light and equal amount of dark. And it's so funny. I just happened to wear this black and white dress and I didn't even put that together. So, what we have to understand is that we have to balance these two parts of our psyche, divinity and humanity, light and dark, shadow, good, evil, all of those things. We have to understand that we live in a world of duality. And when we try to spiritually bypass that duality, we get into trouble. But when we go too deep into the density of the duality, we also get in trouble. So here's the balance. Where do you need to bring more divinity? Where do you need to accept more of your humanity and be okay as a human, a perfectly imperfect, flawed human that is carrying these codes of core wounds and acting in such a way that sometimes we even second guess ourselves. Why did I say that? Why did I do that? But we also have to understand that we can either hold on to the frequency of guilt or the frequency of forgiveness. And either one of those is going to affect the trajectory of where we're headed over the next few months. This equinox coincides with the solar eclipse in Virgo. That was at 29 degrees of Virgo. It was the second of two new moons in Virgo in a little over a month. And it's at the anaretic degree, which is like the critical degree when something's got to give. I'm sure you've been feeling the intensity. Last week, Mars was opposing Chiron. With the solar eclipse, there was an opposition to both Saturn and Neptune. And even though there's a beautiful trine to Uranus and Pluto, it's like we're feeling the push pull. Like we want things to happen, but there's been so much, like maybe you're even just questioning, like, is it even still possible to have the things that I want? And we just got out of this really difficult 2 week underworld journey between the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse, where all of the shadow has been coming up. And we're not quite done yet. In fact, Mars is squaring Pluto this week. So we're going to be experiencing power struggles, and we're really still having to find that balance, right? The word is balance. How do I find balance? Where do I need balance in my life? So, two messages came through as I was sort of channeling the kind of transmission that wanted to be shared today. And I believe that one is really connected to tuning into our divinity, and the other is like really accepting our humanity. So, for those of us that are in the northern hemisphere, we're stepping into fall. Some of us call that spooky season, right? And it's time for like our inner witch archetype to be activated. And it's funny because on the way to dropping off my daughter, I had this experience where I intuitively felt that I was being labeled as this villain in the eyes of some of the people in my daughter's life. And for a moment, it was difficult. It was difficult to accept that. There was a part of me that wanted to defend myself and say, like, well, if you only knew what was really happening. But I just heard, like, there's no reason to defend yourself. Let your energy speak for itself. And those that want to see you in a different light, let them. And that's what this acceptance of our humanity is all about. It's really this month activating our inner villain. So maybe there is a specific villain that you really connect with. For me, I've always liked Maleficent, especially once Angelina Jolie played her and we got to see her backstory and how she really wasn't this villain. She went through like terrible suffering and she wasn't accepted and she was vilified because she was different. She was doing things in a different way. And anytime somebody speaks up and disrupts the status quo, especially especially when it's a woman, they're going to get labeled all sorts of things. It makes me think of our beautiful Mary Magdalene. I pulled this card today before my sadhana practice, and it says, Mary Magdalene, teacher awakens. You have something important to share. Follow the inner call. Don't let anything stop you. And so we need to let others think whatever they want. Do you think people understood Mary Magdalene? People still don't understand Mary Magdalene. In fact, like almost her whole mission, her purpose has been either labeled as just being some whore that washed Jesus's feet, or just shadowed by Jesus's example rather than being side by side, eye to eye, heart to heart with him. And so we're in this stage of humanity where we are beginning to reclaim the divine feminine and put her in her rightful place. But if you are one of the ones that are walking this way of the example, you're going to receive persecution. People are not going to understand you. And if you stand up for truth in a way that makes others second guess their belief system, you are definitely not going to be understood. And it's easier for people to project onto you than it is for them to look at their own wounds and their own belief systems and make a change. So if you're not making somebody mad, if somebody's not judging you, then maybe you're not living enough. We have to sit with the feelings. Of course, we're going to want to be liked. Of course, we're going to want people to understand us. But if we're spending so much time on that, especially because Mercury just moved into Libra, we are going to miss out. We're going to miss out on the bigger picture. And with Pluto and Aquarius, this is the time where we have to transform the fear. Pluto is all about transformation, and Aquarius is about being different, transforming the fear of being different. And so we have to make our mission our top priority. And of course, be with the feelings, the hurt, the pain. I wish they knew. I wish they could see the truth, right? Be with that. Be with that. It's very important. But then take that and alchemize it, put it into your mission, put it into your creativity, put it into your purpose. And then be that badass bitch that other people look at and they're like, damn, how did she get to where she is? I was just listening to this playlist that had Queen Irby on it, who I love. She has so many great bops. So she has this song R.I.P. and it's all about coming out of the cave and misbehaving and taking out her broom and flying and really embodying this witch archetype and letting the haters hate. And one of the lyrics that really stood out to me was, your shit fertilized my growth. And so I want us to take that in, that really graphic, really raw representation of when people throw stuff at you, let it be the fertilizer to allow you to grow. Let your revenge be your success, your peace of mind, your ability to continue to overcome, to continue to return non-love with love. And don't worry if other people are judging you. If they're not judging you, you're probably not completely in your authenticity yet, because our authenticity, our creativity, our perspective is polarizing. But let's do a reframe with that word polarizing, because we're finding the balance here. So the other part of this is, as we start to really embody our villain archetype and step into our villain era, whatever villain is your specific flavor that you're like, okay, I'm going to try this on for size. The other part of it is that we can't let the polarity get us into a space of arrogance. And that's where we have to call in the divinity. Because right now, there is so much suffering, there is so much division on this planet. And we are in this peak moment of humanity's evolution where it feels like we're in this boiling pot, and it's just like the pressure is on. It's on. I mean, like I'll watch little bits and pieces of what's going on around the world, especially in the US right now, and it's just like, right? Like it's scary. It's scary. We don't know what to do. There's so much uncertainty. It feels like there is just so much dark energy that wants to take over. But what we also have to remember is that we were born for this time. And the thing is that those dark energies, they want us to be in fear. They want us to be separated. They want us to point the finger. It's their problem. They're the ones. It's that group. It's those people. If it weren't for them, then it would be different. And so notice that. Notice how we're starting to see the archetypes of the authoritarian coming up. We're starting to see the archetype of the radical anarchist coming up. We're starting to see that like scared follower archetype coming up. There's lots of different characters that are starting to play out. And maybe we even kind of oscillate between several of these archetypes. And I know for myself, as having the shadow of opinion in my SQ and the gene keys, I've really had to go on a long journey of detaching from my opinions and thinking that my way of seeing something is above someone else's. And I just actually had a perspective shift the other day where I was really thinking from one perspective about something that happened recently in the news, and started to listen to a few different talks and videos about that topic. And my perspective actually started to shift, and I could see what the other side was saying, and there was truth to that. And what we really need to come to in this eclipse portal and this equinox portal is this space of equanimity, where we're not attached to this side or this side, because either polarity is still creating the division and the separation. We have to understand that it's humans, all humans. And so I encourage you, when you feel the need to lash out at others that aren't doing the thing that you think they should be doing, aren't standing up for the cause that you think they should be standing up for, or are pledging allegiance to the leader that you think is corrupt, notice that. Of course, recognize that you're playing this role, but then see yourself as the observer and not as the one that's playing the role, and say, wow, I'm really in my part right now. I'm really in my feelings. And then get to where that place is in your body and ask, like, okay, like, where is this like deep feeling of like emotion or anger or pride or arrogance coming up in me? And like, where in myself do I need to address that, rather than sending that comment or, looking at that person with judgment? Because all that's doing is creating more division, more separation. And the dark agendas don't care if you're for them or against them. They just want you to be for or against something, rather than in a space of unity. So when you see those people that are radically opposed to the way that you are viewing things right now, I encourage you to pray for them and pray for yourself and ask, may I see this from the higher perspective? I love Marianne Williamson because she's gone on this whole journey from being like a spiritual author and teacher to this like political figure. And she was actually one of the people that really got me into a space of seeing that, knowing about current events and politics in general, that it's not something that I have to spiritually bypass. Because for a while I was just like, oh, I don't need to know about that stuff. I'm focused on the starseed stuff. And I'd love to focus on that, but we're a human in a human incarnation right now, and this stuff is important. And so what I love about her is that she always brings in like these very spiritual principles. And she said something about like, rather than praying for victory on the battlefield, pray to be lifted up above the battlefield. I believe she got that from the Course in Miracles. I don't know the exact quote, but rising above the battlefield, like that really just took me to like a different perspective. And so think about that collectively, that right now we're in a space of a war zone, whether we want to admit it or not. A lot of us are in denial, but it's happening. It's happening. It's a psychological war. It's a biological war. It's a physical war. It's a technological war. It's a spiritual war. There is war on so many levels, and it all starts with our mind. It starts with our mind and what we're thinking about what we're seeing. And so I encourage you to pray that you be lifted up from that division, up from that need to be right. The need to be right creates so much suffering. And what good is it to be right if we're alone in our rightness? I will say that again. What good is it to be right if we are alone in our rightness? Because nobody's going to listen to the perspective of someone that positions themselves higher because they believe the true thing. It's a lot. I know it's not always easy in practice, but what we do also need to remember is that when people are in fear, they become more dogmatic because it's easier to attach to that thing. This belief that I can control is going to make me feel better when everything else feels like it's falling apart. So just express so much compassion for yourself and others because these are really big initiatory lessons that we're going through. And so, with this solar eclipse in Virgo and now going into Libra season, I just encourage you to figure out how you can clean things up and bring yourself back into balance. And so, whatever that means for you, cleaning up your thoughts, cleaning up your health, cleaning up your diet, cleaning up your scrolling habit. I've really gone to a place of like limiting my scrolling, and I've really stepped into this like discipline in my spiritual practice because I'm going through a very difficult time right now. And if I didn't have that, I wouldn't be able to stay grounded. I wouldn't be able to stay focused. And this is the thing that we need right now. We need focus because everything else around us is going to want to keep us in fear, distracted, and out of this present moment, out of the thing that we're supposed to be doing. So I'm going to be pulling some cards and we're going to see what these equinox messages are. First, from my deck, the Mermaid Empowerment Oracle deck, which you can purchase on my website at meaganmermaid.com. We have approval. I love this. This is so perfect for what I was talking about with that whole villain era thing. And it says, I approve of myself completely. So let's say that again. I approve of myself completely. With Mary Magdalene as our guide in these next few weeks, we're going to approve of ourselves and our mission, even if we're misunderstood, even if we're judged, even if we're the villain in other people's stories. Great. If you're going to be a villain, be a pretty one because it's Libra season. So play your part well, right? And be like the sexy villain. Like if that's the part you're going to play, then play that part and play it well and improve of yourself. And no, it's just a role. It's not who we are. Who we are and what we are is everything, and everything is us. We are God, just exploring and playing out these parts. So we don't have to take it so seriously. And then the next card that we have is believe. I believe it and receive it. So even if we don't see that miracle right now, even if we don't see the way out, the belief is what's going to get us there. So again, we have to focus on what's in here first and not what's out there. And that's why we have to go back to that discipline of mind, body, spirit, self mastery. That is going to help you not to get sucked into the rabbit holes of fear and worry that are spiraling right now. And then we have the journey. And the mermaid empowerment for the journey is I celebrate every step of the journey. So I feel like this equinox portal is us stepping onto the bridge, right? This literally is like a Stargate of portal. And it was Neville Goddard who talked about the bridge of incidents, which inspired this card. And he was really into like manifestation teaching. So I encourage you to look him up if you're interested in learning more about that. And he talked about the bridge of incidents is like where you go from like where you are now to where you want to be and what you desire and what you want to call forth. And the bridge is like this series of experiences and the people that you meet and all of the situations that you go on that take you to that desired outcome. And through the experiences, you become the version of you that can receive that outcome. So rather than look at what's happening like, oh my God, everything's burning down, everything's falling apart, we have to take up our sword. In an email I wrote the other day, I encourage you to get onto my newsletter. I've been writing a lot and sharing a lot. If you're interested in kind of getting messages through the written word rather than just video, you can get added to my newsletter. And I talked about being a dragon master. And the words that came through is dragon masters have to be brave. And every day when I'm doing like my 2.5 hour sadhana practice in the morning at 4 a.m., doing my cold shower, chanting and sitting in these like yoga poses for long periods of time, just chanting and devotion and discipline. I thought about that, like having this sword on my back and like training. Like we've done this before. Like the word dragon master was very intentional, where we have to be like these ninjas of this very powerful energy. And rather than fear it, we have to roll with it, right? We have to be a match to the power of the dark energies. But it's like the dragon master doesn't necessarily throw the dragon fire. It's learning how to wield the fire and learning how to be the fire without having to breathe the fire. I don't know where all this is coming from, but it's kind of fun. So let's pull some cards from some of the other decks. I have the tarot deck here, so I'm going to pull from that next. We have the Knight of Swords. So it feels like things might start to move quickly, but with Mars square Pluto this week, we really want to make sure that we're not rushing into things. We also have Hierophant on the bottom of the deck. So I think it's just like, rather than rushing into whatever battle we think we have to fight or what we have to defend with that sword, it's like, the sword is there, but the sword is our truth. The sword is our spine that is filled with the energy of Kundalini that we have focused on, that we have mastered, that we have worked on, so that it's simply our energy that begins to affect the people and the situations around us rather than having to rush in. A lot of times with the Knight of Swords, it's like you rush in and you don't even have a plan. So then also trust the structure. The Hierophant is all about the structures and tradition. So it's kind of like really being in the boundaries. And it's funny with Pluto and Aquarius, I've kind of been feeling like it's rebellious to be a rule follower. I love how Aquarian energy is always like an enigma. It's always like a paradox, because it's like we have to be a ninja dragon master within these systems. If we're trying to be these outliers of the radical anarchist, not only is our message not going to be heard, but it's going to contribute to violence. We want to do this in a way of nonviolence. And then we have music for manifesting from the Magical Mermaids deck. So music, sound, this is something that's going to be really important to keep us in the flow, get us out of those fear thoughts. And I'm going to pull one final message from the Moonology deck. And we have, this is so funny, balance, the whole word that we've been talking about. Balance, spirituality, and practicality. This says full moon in Pisces, and we have a North Node in Pisces right now. So this is all about the spirituality and the practicality. That's the Virgo Pisces axis, South Node in Virgo right now. We are really having to find that balance in everything that we do and have just as much of support and calling on divinity and allowing things to happen and to go with the flow, and then also being practical and cleaning things up and doing what we can. What we can control is our self-care and our self-mastery and how we're caring for ourselves. We can't control what's happening out there. But just like the Bridge of Incidents on this journey card is saying that we have to become the version of us. We have to take this journey. It's the hero's journey. But every good story, there's always that point that's like, how are they going to get out of this one? But it always works out. It always does, and it always will. And wherever you are in that journey right now, know that you are safe and you will get through this, and this too shall pass. And whatever lesson, however challenging it is wielding you into that dragon master that can overcome all things and will be such an inspiration to others that see you and see that if you could do it, so can they. So I encourage you again to sign up for my newsletter at meaganmermaid.com, and you'll also get a free mermaid meditation when you sign up that can support you in just starting to have a meditative practice if that's something that's new for you. If you want to dive deeper, I offer astrology readings, galactic channeled readings, mystical mentorship sessions. And if you are an entrepreneur, I offer all sorts of ways that I can support you in website development, brand development, graphic design, video editing, web design. I have the two gifts of being technologically savvy and very creative. So I love working with other entrepreneurs and creators to bring their mission to life. You can find all of that at meaganmermaid.com. I love you so much, and Equinox blessings. Have a great day.